Welcome to Flip It Furniture. My name is Amy, and in today's video, we're going to be making over this armoire. I've had this armoire up for sale for a couple of months now. This was my nephew's, and they didn't want it anymore. It's in pretty good condition, so I thought it would sell as is, but it hasn't. So that tells me it's time for some paint. I want to show what a big impact chalk paint can have. So we're just going to prime, chalk, and seal, and it's going to be a huge makeover. I will switch out the hardware though, and I'm going to use a powder blue to complement the inside, which is an espresso. I want to leave the inside espresso. If you enjoy this video, please hit the like and subscribe button to help my channel grow. And enough talking, let's flip it. Before I do anything, I always want to fix any kind of repairs. So there's a couple gouges in the top. I'm going to use my wood filler and just fill them in. When it dries, I just take a wet rag and wipe the excess off. The bottom drawer was giving me a hard time opening and closing, so it needed a new drawer slide. So for 10 bucks, I ordered from Amazon and I did that repair. Now I use white lightning to clean my piece down. This is, it's like a powder from Dixie Belle, and you use 2 tablespoons for 16 ounces. So that's my mixture of that. It gets it really clean. But I always go back with my water mister and a fresh rag and wipe down to make sure I don't have cleaner residue. Because if there is cleaner residue, my paint won't adhere as well. So here I'm using Dixie Belle's Boss to prime this piece. A lot of the time you'll hear that you don't need a primer when doing chalk paint, but I firmly believe that when you're selling furniture, like if you're doing it for yourself, that's one thing, but if you're selling it to somebody else, you want to make sure they're getting the best of the best. I don't want to have to worry that in a year from now, somebody's going to own this and it's going to peel or stink or yellow, nothing weird. So I always use a primer. This is my second coat of the primer. When you're painting such a dark piece and you're painting it a light color, it's important to use a white primer and not a clear, so that when your paint goes on, it's going on a lighter surface. If it goes on a darker surface, I may need 3 coats, but this way I only need 2 coats. And now I'm using the slick stick on the metal hardware. I use it on the inside and on the outsides, just because I'm gonna paint those with my chalk paint and I wanna make sure that it stays on. The paint color I'm using is called Savannah Mist. It's by Dixie Belle, and you can buy Dixie Belle products online. You would just Google, Dixie Belle paint. Or you can look up a retailer near you and find one that way. When I started applying it, I got a little nervous because it kind of looked greenish, and that's not what I wanted at all. When I kept picturing it, I was picturing it like a Cinderella's dress kind of blue, but it did end up drying that way, so I was really happy. I always use my water mister when I'm using chalk paint. Just a tiny spray of water, and it really helps to move your paint around. It moves the paint, it lays it even. There are no brush strokes that you have to worry about. You don't have to sand in between coats for the most part. I mean, sometimes I do, but that's when, if there's little pieces of lint or something that I had to pull up. But for the most part, when you use the water mister and you're chalk painting, it just moves it so nice that it leaves no strokes. So at this time, my first coat is dry. So now I'm going to go in and do one more coat. And here I'm using water-based polyurethane in satin, and I'm gonna seal the entire piece from head to toe using 2 coats, and I wait for the first one to dry completely before applying the second one. For the finishing touches, I added glass knobs that I got from Amazon. I love doing this makeover. It was just so simple, but I really feel like it made a huge difference for this armoire, and it's completely updated now. I really wanted to show that sometimes all you need is a primer, a chalk paint, and a sealer, and you can do an entire armoire. This armoire is taller than me, and it covered with 8 ounces of paint. I mean, it's pretty amazing. I'm excited to post this piece online, and hopefully it finds a new home within a few days. Don't forget, if you like this video, please subscribe, and I'll see you next week.